Good evening. I'm Governor Doug Burgum. Wanted to say thank you to all the press that's here today. The press plays an important role in society, certainly plays an important role in this event, and we thank you for all the attention and effort that you're making. In addition to myself, we've got a number of folks up here that are going to be available to answer questions as part of this press conference. And let me start to my far right. We've got Colonel Henderson from the Army Corps of Engineers out of Omaha here helping oversee the cleanup efforts. We've got Colonel Mike Gerhardt from the Superintendent of the North Dakota Highway Patrol, who's been involved in this since the beginning. Senator John Hoeven from North Dakota, U.S. Senator. Sheriff Kirkmeyer from Morton County, also who's been point man on the ground for law enforcement here in Morton County. General Alan Dorman, who runs is the Adjutant General for North Dakota, and also leads North Dakota Emergency Services as his role working for the state, and then Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford. Today was a day that we set off with a certain set of objectives, and those objectives included life safety and health, and it included environmental protection and cleanup of the camp, and those were our two primary objectives. And we had sent, in coordination with the Army Corps, closure notices. The camp's been closed for some time officially. We had an evacuation notice related to the weather and related to the potential flooding that went effective today at 2 o'clock. And from a top-level standpoint, the operations today went very smoothly. This is an accumulation of a lot of effort over the preceding weeks, where we've made every effort through social media, direct contact with people in the camp, and working in coordination with the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe to make sure that we had all the information to everybody about our intention to close the camp and how we feel that for life and safety reasons that this is not a place where people should be living, in a place that has no sewer, no water, in a flood zone, limited cell service, no access to direct access to medical care and the things you would have in any kind of community. And so we're for those reasons we're saying we're shutting it down. Today, I think the message got out. We had lots and lots of people who left the camp today voluntarily. We believe that numbers of people that are remaining in the camp are the lowest they've been since it started. So we take that as success. Law enforcement today and our emergency personnel that were coordinating things up on the road, which included transportation for people that didn't have transportation to leave. It included the offering of transportation vouchers out of state if people needed those. It included health and welfare checks through the North Dakota Health Department at a service center up here in Bismarck. All those operations went smoothly, and law enforcement for the entire day stayed on the road and did not enter the camp. The people will be asking about what are the plan for those few remaining people that are in the camp. They'll have every opportunity tomorrow, again, to leave the camp without arrest. It's our desire that people leave voluntarily from the camp, and at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, it's our intention in a coordinated way, again, with the state of North Dakota, Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, and Army Corps of Engineers to enter the Oceti camp and continue the cleanup efforts that we've begun in the last few weeks. There was one tragedy that occurred in the camp, which we've received reports of this from medical personnel, and again want to reiterate, no one enforcement left the road, but in the intentional burning of some of the buildings, which may have been ceremonial in nature to burn the buildings, there was apparently either a fire out of control or an explosion, and there was a 17-year-old woman who was severely burned, and she's been understand she's being airlifted to Minneapolis right now after being transported here to Minneapolis, or being transported by Standing Rock ambulance here. And then there was also a 7-year-old boy that also had some injuries. It does, again, what we've been focusing all along is life safety and health, and so this incident that was again happened. We don't know, why or how or how it happened, but we do know there was an injury that occurred inside the camp. We're sharing that because obviously that's very sad for all people that are involved with that. In terms of the arrest, there was 10 arrests made. near the end of the day today. They were made on the highway, and those arrests were made by people that we believe that wanted to be arrested, because we've been very clear about where people could leave. They had every opportunity to leave. We were providing transportation to leave. So for someone to be arrested on the road today, they had to have interaction with law enforcement within an arrest zone with the intention of being arrested. But if anybody watched that again in the true North Dakota way, everybody had every opportunity to walk away, not be arrested. So this is clearly a case where if to be arrested today, you had to really be trying to get it done, because that was not part of our operational plan for today. Our operational plan was life safety, camp cleanup, and tomorrow same thing, coming in tomorrow morning to continue to clean up work. I'll stop there, and either I'll take questions. I also see we've got Attorney General Wayne Stenjum. If you want to join us up here, Attorney General, if there are any questions that come up from a legal standpoint, please join us as well, and we'll be happy to take your questions.
How many short?
Yeah, well, Senator Homan would like to make a statement before we get going.
Short comment. We're asking for cooperation from the protesters now.
We have everybody working together. We have the state of North Dakota. We have local law enforcement, Morton County, Sioux County, Burley County. We have the tribe. The tribal council unanimously voted to ask that the protesters leave so that the area can be cleaned up, so that lives are protected. This is a life safety issue. People need to leave for their own
safety. And it's also about keeping pollution out of the river. So we're asking everyone involved. Together now, they're doing it patiently but firmly, and we need everybody to work with us and to cooperate. And so that ask goes out after today. I think we have to thank these law enforcement officials for, they've showed incredible. And so now let's make sure that we respect each other and that we work together to resolve this, and we do so peacefully and within the law.
Okay, questions for myself, Senator, or anybody else that's up here?
How many people remain inside the camp?
We don't have, of course, any way to know exactly what that is, but our estimate would be that it'd be between 25 and 50 people may be staying overnight. But again, people are free to leave at any time. So if there's anyone that's down there right now that wants to leave and not stay there tonight, there may be other people that are still leaving. So we don't know exactly how many people there, but it's again smallest number since this camp was initiated.
Governor, will they be arrested once they leave now?
Anyone that's in the camp right now is still free to leave at any time. They can leave tonight. They can leave tomorrow morning. Anybody who wants to voluntarily leave will be allowed to leave. As we come in to do cleanup tomorrow morning, again, it's anybody that's there is trespassing. So anybody that's there is breaking the law, and anyone who obstructs our ability to do cleanup will be subject to arrest. But anybody that wants to voluntarily leave, grab their stuff, help take down anything that might be considered culturally significant items, we'll be happy to allow those people to do that as we enter the camp tomorrow morning to initiate additional cleanup.
Will law enforcement be accompanying cleanup efforts tomorrow? Is there any intention for law enforcement to enter?
That's a decision that will be made by the people on the ground in the morning. In terms of how we do that, but it is our intention to begin cleanup at 9 o'clock, and of course we want to make sure that any contractors that are working for the state, for the tribe, or the Army Corps of Engineers are safe in the work they're doing, and we want to make sure that we can get about protecting the environment. With the warm temperatures we've had and the thawing, we've had significant potential for contamination from human waste. I think at one point this winter we'd identified over 300 abandoned cars down there. Anybody who's from this part of the world that knows what it's like to leave a car out in the wintertime, and you get frozen batteries and frozen engines leaking into the ground. So the Corps of Engineers is going to have work to do to make sure there may be soil remediation. This isn't just high school kids picking up garbage in a ditch along the road. There's work to do to actually try to return this land to its state, and it's again right in the watershed of both Cannonball River and the Missouri River. So there's plenty of work to do by the Corps on professional remediation after buildings and garbage have been removed.
Will there be any more negotiating with people in the camp as there has been these past couple of days?
The question was, there be any more negotiating? We are, Lieutenant Governor and I have invested days and days worth of time trying to build relationships with people in the tribe and with my staff. Kudos to my staff. Levi Bachmeyer, Scott Davis from Indian Affairs have spent lots of time really trying to build relationships with people in the camp. There's been a sort of a shifting set of people that represent the different factions in the camp, but whoever they are, we're happy to talk to them, and if there are people that have needs, whether they're health needs, whether they're transportation needs, the governor's office and Indian Affairs, we stand ready to talk to anybody who wants to talk to us if we can help facilitate their transition out of the camp and into a safer, cleaner environment.
Who's paying for the motels, the bus tickets, and so on?
I made a judgment call that in the absence of figuring out who's going to pick up the tab, if we have to have those advanced, the state of North Dakota will pay those, and then we can have a discussion down the road about, like say, the state of North Dakota might be paying now, but we're keeping the receipts, and we'll have a discussion on who's going to pay at the end. But if the taxpayers in North Dakota are listening, we're saving taxpayer dollars anytime we can buy a bus ticket and a hotel room versus trying to put somebody through the legal system. And so, I think it's better for everybody to resolve that way if we can.
What's the budget for that, Governor?
We don't have
Estimated tab?
it's small compared to what we spent on law enforcement the last few years. So you figure out, you know what the price of a hotel room is in Bismarck and what a bus ticket is, depends on where people are going. So don't have an estimate, but this is small change relative to what the overall cost of what this has been.
How many people enough and tell the protesters completely clear the protesters from the camp?
Well, I think today at 2:00 we said enough was enough. We've been giving people ample time. Leave peacefully, take your belongings, and I think we're very firm that the camp is now closed, and we're very firm that tomorrow morning we're coming in and we'll have unfettered access to the camp starting tomorrow, and we'll again continue. We've been working in collaboration with the tribe for the last 3 weeks, but during that time frame, there have been days, I think many of you have been following the dumpsters per day. We were averaging about 11 dumpsters per day on weekdays. This last weekend, we had one day when we got 42 roll-off dumpsters. One day we had 52. That's more on track to effectuate the kind of cleanup we need, but then we fell back earlier this week to some days where we had 0 dumpsters. And so again, we want to get back on track with the cleanup, and people that are obstructing are subject to arrest.
How many people took up the offer so far?
I don't know that we have exact numbers. I know that earlier today there was an estimate that there might have been 70 or more people up on the road looking for transportation out. Transportation with United Tribes provided a bus and a driver that was taking people out. But I think that there were more people that took transportation options than actually taking anything relative to health or hotel or transportation vouchers.
What needs to be cleaned up down there? I mean, obviously there's a lot of trash. What type of trash and what type of situation is it? Because, I mean, we saw the fires today. You could hear the propane tanks going. What kind of situation is it down there for the workers? Pretty dangerous.
Well, I think anybody that's following this has had a chance to watch a lot of Facebook Live footage from down there, and I think you can see the enormous accumulation of garbage and human waste that's been piled up down there, and again the Corps will get in if there's been. We know that there were backhoes in the camp earlier. They did what you'd call in North Dakota just a dump, dig a hole in the ground and throw garbage in it. That stuff's going to have to be excavated and pulled out. So only when we've got free and unfettered access to the camp, meaning everyone's gone, then the Corps will really be able to get in and do a sizing on all the remediation and work. And of course, this was beautiful North Dakota prairie, in a sensitive, watershed area. Its only use prior to this was for cattle grazing, and just the damage that's been done to soil by all the driving and the ruts and everything that's in there is substantial. But the goal of the Army Corps of Engineers is to try to return the land to its natural, and that'll take some time.
Do you have a time frame?
I don't, but I'll let the Colonel answer a few questions. Colonel Henderson from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Good evening. It's the goal of the Corps to completely restore this land to its pre-protest state and get that mess cleaned up. The primary reason for that is contamination of the Wahoo Reservoir, which serves as a fresh water source for thousands of people. And we're going to continue to work with the state of North Dakota and Morton County to provide a permissive environment for us to get our contractors in there and clean that up. And we really appreciate their assistance and their partnership in this. It absolutely enables us to do our mission, which is to protect the water resources and the land resources that were entrusted to the United States. With regard to the length of time, we awarded a contract any remediation to do, any additional areas. Additionally, with that, we're going to continue to work with Standing Rock. They've already, and we've talked with them about their efforts to do things like plant natural grasses and restore that back to its natural state so it can be used for its authorized purpose.
Do you think you have time before the river falls and that stuff makes it into the river?
Yeah, so that's the key unknown. That's what's been driving a lot of our dates. We wanted to get this done before the a big spring melt on a year that's had record snowfall in some areas, especially in these basins. That because of an ice jam flood, which is very hard to predict, that nobody got hurt, nobody got flooded out. Structures and vehicles ended up in the Wahoo Reservoir. That would be an absolute environmental catastrophe. Because we don't know, because ice jam flooding is so unpredictable, essentially what's driving our efforts here.
Colonel, what's the cost of the contract?
Yeah, so the initial contract that the U.S. Taxpayers are paying for right now was just about $800,000. And then depending on what additional scope of work that we find, additional go up from there, obviously.
Okay. No estimates at this point, overall remediation to turn that back to the state it was?
For the additional items we have in there, we think it could go as high as $1.1 or $1.2 million.
In addition, or?
No, total.
Okay, thank you.
Governor, a question. Do you know if the BIA or maybe the sheriff would know, a number of individuals went south towards the reservation. Will the BIA stop them from coming back into? You mentioned the fires were ceremonial in nature.
Let me take your first part of your question first, and in that I want to put a Senator Hoeven, because Senator Hoeven has been interfacing with lots of people in D.C. to try to get federal assistance for us to resolve this issue that's taking place on. Received assistance, and it was also the ask not only made by the senator and by the state of North Dakota, but the tribe itself was seeking additional Bureau of Indian Affairs officers to help deal with all the challenges on the reservation. And let me just help put this in context, particularly for people that aren't from this area. Standing Rock Reservation includes territory both in North and South Dakota. That size is about the size of Connecticut. At any given time, the standard budget would be about 20 Bureau of Indian Agent officers, which represent all the law enforcement. There's one county sheriff in Sioux County with no officers, so all the law enforcement is BIA. And not all those positions were filled at the time this started. So, and if you think, okay, now you got 16 people, half of them are in South Dakota, they work shifts, day and night, you're really talking about 2 or 3 police officers at a time when this thing was starting to swell up, to 10,000 people. So, overwhelming. The people of Cannonball, which Lieutenant Governor and I have spent time with the people in Cannonball, their no community, the only place for kids to do anything in that town right now, literally basketball in their community center, and that was filled up with protesters. They had to lock down their school. They had wakes and funerals that were disrupted. So the people of Cannonball, in addition, as the senator said, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, the people in Cannonball, their district, which is a district of the the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, they have also voted that they want the protesters to go. So the senator was asking for additional BIA officials, and the tribe was asking that. They were asking on behalf of their own citizens to say, we would like to have a law enforcement in our reservation. So now between BIA and Park Service and other folks that would fall underneath the Department of Interior, there are now about 80 officers that are on scene. And so your question about people moving south of the Cannonball, this is a situation where the BIA is, if it's moving from county to Sioux County, jurisdictionally that becomes a challenge for BIA, and we want to work in collaboration with them. They have established what we would call a hard checkpoint, and that hard checkpoint south of the Cannonball Bridge, where anyone who leaves is not allowed to come back in. And they'll be manning that 24 hours a day until we have the camp cleaned up. The senator said, yes, you jump in with about our call today. But
2 points on that. Yes, there's a north checkpoint on 1806, so people can't come in from the north, and there's a south checkpoint, so people can't come in from south. The whole point is for people to leave, not come back in. So BIA and the other federal officials are on the reservation at the southern checkpoint and making sure that people don't come in, just like the Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Office, and others are manning the north checkpoint. That's the whole idea, is to keep people out. And again, this goes back to your earlier question. We've got a limited amount of time here, folks. We've got to clean this up. The Corps is ready to bring in the equipment and to do all those things so that you don't have pollution in the river, and also, again, the life safety issue. So that's the whole point. And that's why it's very important that as you all are providing this message nationally, that people understand this is about protecting life, this is about protecting the river. And what you saw today was law enforcement showed incredible restraint. The fires that occurred the camp, and they were set by the people in the camp. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that nobody gets injured. And that's what these law enforcement officers are doing. And it's not just state and local, it's the federal law enforcement officers as well. They're all working together on this. And as far as any of the tactical questions that you're asking, that's up to law enforcement to answer those questions. We're not going to go into that. But the whole point is, yes, people are not supposed to go back in, and now we're asking for cooperation for the people who are still in there to come out so that we can get this camp cleaned up in time, because we do have a limited amount of time to do it.
Senator, what's the status on the state's...
Did we answer both your questions? You had,
Just ceremonial nature, what's that mean?
yeah, and somebody else would be better be able to answer that.
Scott Davis, you want me to take a shot at this? Or again, I would say that using that phrase, opposition, as reported to us, when you say why are you burning a building, that was one of the responses that came back. You can understand, to me as a parent, how tragic I think it is that anyone was even close to a situation that involved explosive, flammable material, teenagers near that situation. To me,
That time, none.
None. So I mean, this is we don't know the occasion, but this is it's a that shouldn't have had to happen, and it's very sad.
The status request for federal reimbursement for law enforcement and other costs, where is that at right now?
For the cleanup, I think Colonel Henderson's here. He can answer that as well. The Corps has been very clear on covering the cleanup. As far as the law enforcement piece, we feel that the federal government does need to step up there. We're going to continue to work that issue. We don't have it resolved yet, but the important point I want to make is let's get this situation resolved. Let's all do what it takes to get this resolved. And then we'll work on, the financial aspects of it.
Of the 10 people arrested today, are they from North Dakota, or are they trying to being people from outside the state?
Kirkmeyer, I don't know that answer specifically, but
the 10 individuals that were arrested, they're just being processed through the Morton County Correctional Center. At this time, I don't know all the details about ages and who they are and where they're from at this point.
But we do know that I think sort of beginning to date, now it's with 93% of Dakota.
Oh, what charges are those people facing?
They are, today, the individuals that were arrested are charged with obstruction of a government function, which is a Class B misdemeanor.
And were there any injuries either on the law enforcement side or protester side during those times?
There's no injuries that have been reported to me on the law enforcement side. We are following up with one reported injury of a hip injury from a individual that was arrested, and I don't know all the details on that, and that will be followed up on.
What does that bring the total arrests to at this time?
It's somewhere in that 720 range. We're right in that neighborhood at this point.
Back on the clean water team, since we're all on the clean water team, Colonel Henderson talked about that, but again, on the closest municipal water intake downstream from this camp is for the city of Fort Yates, which is the largest city on the Standing Rock Reservation. There is a federal project that is going to be go live later this summer, which would move the intake down to Mobridge, South Dakota, so it would move it down to about 70 miles away from where the protest camp is. But right now, during the spring flood situation, it's about 30 miles downstream. So the municipal water that would be most affected in a pollution event would be the Standing Rock water system.
The river has been frozen for a few months now. Is there any indication that the river, though, had been polluted prior to the freezing? The protesters have been here for months.
I don't think we have any indication that's the case.
Well, we know, I mean, it's one thing to throw garbage out when it freezes in 10 minutes, and then again, if anybody was down there last week when it hit 50 degrees, I think you could smell the change in the environment with that much of accumulated trash and garbage in that one spot. So, the part of the reason why we got started 3 weeks ago is once we had these thawing temperatures, then you start having stuff that starts leaching into the ground, and you're at that point you're maybe already too late to stop some pollution.
Is there any special precautions being taken just because you don't know what's down there, what could be buried in the mud, and what kind of substances people have brought into the
Absolutely.
camp?
They've done hazmat training, absolutely.
Colonel, anything you want to add to that? Or?
That's it. We're going to take all the precautions necessary for the building temporary. Sorry. Absolutely. As we go through there, we'll take all the precautions. There's no dangers to the contractors inside the buildings or from any hazardous materials that will be there. And we have specially trained people to handle that as we come across them.
That you've given these people every opportunity to leave peacefully, and they've chosen not to. What does it tell you about their motivation and their respect for the environment, given what they've just spent the last several months doing?
I'm not able to. I'm not offer any perspective. Any particular individual's motivation. We do know that as they dissipated and deteriorated, from the conversation we've had, that there are different groups of people staying for different reasons, and certainly there is a new era, I would say, that we're entering in nationally. Anonymous funding accounts like GoFundMe, and then a cause. You take those three things and you put those things together. Depending on those items, you can have a sustained protest where even 2 years ago, before the real arrival of anonymous funding, so where I've said, the industry is becoming an industry because of the dollars, the corporate dollars, and the funding, and I just would predict right now that I think that we'll see in the next couple of years that in the same way we've had a national discussion around political campaign finance, campaign funding, and free speech and the combination of that, then what's going to get dragged into that? Do we have the right kind of transparency and the right kind of accountability for anonymous funding? Because right now it's just donor beware. You click on a button, you donate money, and you don't know if it's going to a great cause that you read about online or if that money arrives and it's being used for illegal activity.
And I think this is an issue that the whole country is going to have to take up because we need to think through what are the implications of being able to anonymously fund criminal activity, or whether we're anonymously funding a good cause, and how do you tell the difference between the two?
The other smaller protest camps that have popped up near the main one today, what are the status of those? Are those going to be evacuated? Is that in process? Where do things go from there?
The focus of this press conference has been on those protesters that are camping on Army Corps land. Both the Rosebud Camp and the Sacred Stone Camp extend right up to the border, and Sacred Stone substantially onto reservation land. And so, again, our focus is on, clearing the floodplain and clearing the Army Corps land, but as Senator Hogan alluded to, our efforts to have deep collaboration both with Standing Rock Tribe and with the Bureau of Indian Affairs is we're not just trying to move an illegal encampment of cannonball. So again, we have to continue to work in a fashion. There is an eviction notice that's been issued by the tribe relative to Sacred Stone, and I believe that's got 4 or 5 days left on it before that reaches its completion notice. There is a separate legal process for eviction within the reservation versus there was on Corps land, so there's a different legal process to follow, but the BIA initiated that legal process with the 10-day eviction notice that they started a few days ago.
And remember, again, we respect the right to peaceful protest, but the tribe, the tribal council did vote and asked the protesters to leave. So it is about respecting the wishes of the tribe as well.
Any other? If not, we will want to just, anybody from up here want to closing comments?
Want to make sure you get out.
Any messaging? No. Anybody down here? Okay, well listen, again, I want to close by just echoing a little bit of what the senator said, which is, again, I think throughout this whole, throughout this entire event from the beginning, the law enforcement personnel from North Dakota and from other states who've come to provide assistance have showed enormous professionalism and enormous restraint. And again, we saw that today. I have to believe that some of the best and some of the most polite people that we have, in the country in law enforcement are here because as North Dakotans, we care about people's right to free speech. We care about everybody in the state. We care about everybody that's a enrolled member. We care about visitors to our state. We care about their health. We care about their welfare. We genuinely care about that, and so we've tried to handle this in the most respectful way. But we also care about our residents. We care about our economy. We care about the rule of law, and we care about, and we're appreciative of the other states who've sent people here to assist when our resources have been strained. So again, kudos go out to law enforcement and the way they've handled themselves during this time period. And again, our big ask for tomorrow is that anybody that's remaining in the camp, we want to make sure they know that they have an opportunity to voluntarily leave. Take your belongings, remove anything that you think might be culturally significant, and we'll help you get on your way if you need to do that. And because again, at 9 o'clock tomorrow, we want to get in and resume full speed ahead on the important cleanup work. But again, thank you to the press for the important view play. Thanks for the and thanks to the officers and the volunteers and the first responders on the ground that have worked to try to keep everybody safe as we work through this complicated and emotional situation. Thank you all.